Hey guys, my name is Jason Schuster. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I own Intricate Art Spine and Body Solutions. It's a continuing education company teaching other doctors how to do a couple things. This is a quick intro video from our Dry Needling 3 course in Phoenix. We talk about how to use dry needling to maximally amplify the amount of ATP energy the mitochondria have at their disposal to allow our innate superpowers to take place, and so we can heal and maintain health throughout our life, increasing both health span and lifespan. As far as the nutrition and the dry needling and stuff goes, you guys, one of the things that I really think about as far as how can we maximally help our patients is I try to think about stuff from first principles and go try to get to the actual cause of the problem, right? So one of the things that I think needling can do, and it's important as far as how I think about needling, is one of the ways I think about it is what are we doing to the mitochondria throughout our body, right? So mitochondria are one of the cell types that we have that have numerous nuclei per cell, right? They're multinucleated. So if you look at the neurophysiology literature, one skeletal muscle cell can have hundreds of mitochondria, right? Like a big paraspinal cell or something like that. So as far as needling goes, one of the things that I think about needling is I want to maximally increase the amount of energy that the autonomic nervous system has at its disposal to do the stuff that it needs to do normally, right? So our body knows how to heal itself and it tries to fix itself. I think one of the major things that happens, you guys, like in your instance with your whatever you got going on with all the different stuff, is for whatever reason, your body is now stuck in a state of chronic energy deficiency where your autonomic nervous system and everything else just, for whatever reason, has run out of its available energy. And now it has to make these hard decisions. It's like, okay, I don't have enough energy to do everything. Where am I going to send the energy that I have available to do this stuff, right? So there's some crazy new studies coming out. This is the most exciting time to be alive, you guys. I really do honestly think this, as far as in human history in general. We're gonna have bigger changes in the next 5 years than we did in the Industrial Revolution. I really do think this with AI. Have you guys used AI and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Have you guys used ChatGPT? And it is fucking insane, you guys. So it's totally crazy. So one of the things, as far as mitochondria goes, we know a decent amount of stuff about the human body. We don't know way more than we actually know. But as far as the mitochondria goes, one of the easiest ways, you guys, that we can increase the amount of energy that our body has available is just increase the amount of oxygen that our mitochondria have. So one of the most objective things we know about needling is it massively increases blood flow, right? James has done great studies looking at Doppler and different stuff like that, right? It's crazy that I actually have one of his instructors in here because I talk about every class. I'm like, James says this and James says that. Yeah, so he does awesome research on this stuff, right, you guys? So if one skeletal muscle cell has hundreds of mitochondria and we can massively increase blood flow by needling, this is why I try to think about needling as much of the body as I can every time I needle people, because every piece of tissue that we stick a needle into that's not totally normal, which is next to impossible to find, at the very least we're going to be taking those mitochondria from being able to produce somewhere around 2 ATPs per molecule of glucose process to 36. So if you remember from neurophysiology class, you guys, anaerobic mitochondria ability to produce oxygen, 2 ATPs per molecule of glucose. Aerobic ability to produce oxygen, somewhere around 36. So that's an 18-fold difference in the amount of energy that we're giving back to the body, right? So with things, one of the things that seems to happen, and nobody's been able to show exactly how this happens, but I've been hurt badly enough to know that this is true, without question for sure, is once you get hurt, your body actively tries to heal stuff for some X period of time. And then after a while, there's like something that happens between the communication between the brain and whatever part of the body that you got screwed up, and the brain's just like, that's just how it's going to be, and it like stops actively trying to make it better. And I think one of the major like off switches that stops that from trying to continue the continued healing is, it's like, I don't have the energy to do it, I'm just going to stop trying to do it. I try to figure this stuff out all the time, you guys, and I don't know if it's just we don't have the technology, or we just don't, needling is not a treatment that has enough monetary return where we're just not going to have people that are going to put the hundreds of millions of dollars that we need to study this stuff. But whatever happens, it's like needling, if you can restore enough energy back to the autonomic nervous system, it seems like it's a relatively like permanent reset to the body sometimes, where it's like if you can restart that cycle and put the energy back, and the body has, it's like it knows what it needs to do, it just doesn't have the resources to actually be able to do it, right? So that's why I really like to focus when I needle on trying to target the parasympathetic autonomic nervous system with my first needles, and then I move on to the other stuff that I do. So this isn't a study that James did, but this is a similar study. So there's been a couple of studies, you guys, not a lot of them, but there's been some that have looked at, okay, what happens like when we're needling people and what happens after we needle people, right? So the studies that have looked at this, on average, it takes about 15 minutes, and I think it's longer than this, but on average, per the studies at least, it takes about 15 minutes. So when you're getting stabbed by sharp stuff, the sympathetics go up, right? You're getting poked with sharp objects. One of the major limiting factors to the amount of overall efficacy that you can induce during treatment, in my opinion, is how many needles you can put into people. Because if a needle into pathologic tissue increases oxygen to those mitochondria, and there's other ways to think about this, you guys, but this is just one of the ways I think about it. If that is true, we want to be able to put as many needles into as much pathologic tissue into people as possible each time we treat them. The initial thing that happens to the autonomic nervous system is that the sympathetic spike for about 15 minutes, and then the sympathetics go down below baseline and the parasympathetics become dominant. In my opinion, one of the biggest overall indicators of how efficacious treatment is going to be, more or less, is how much autonomic nervous system shift can you induce in this person's body. Because 100% of our patients have a problem with sympathetic hyperactivity, right? There are some parasympathetically hyperactive problems. One of them, the most common one that I know of, is bedwetting when you're a kid, nocturnal enuresis, you guys. So that's like when your parasympathetics are on so heavily when you're sleeping, when some people are growing up, that when your bladder fills up, it's not enough of a sympathetic stimulus to override the parasympathetics that are already on. So our autonomic nervous system is like a seesaw, you guys. As far as we know, both sides can't go up and down at the same time, right? So if the sympathetics are on too much for people and health is back towards autonomic nervous system homeostasis, to me, that's the highest leverage, most like base layer of stuff that we can do for our patients, is how much autonomic nervous system homeostasis can we induce compared to when they came in. And to me, that's like the biggest indicator of how much you're going to be able to help people with needling, right? So the reason that I like to target the parasympathetics first is if the ANS is like a seesaw, and with needling, the initial impetus is for the sympathetics to spike. If we target the parasympathetics first, that has to put a dampener on that initial sympathetic spike that can, for the time, the amplitude and duration. So it has to put like a governor on the amount of sympathetic spike we can get in for how long the sympathetics are elevated. So in my opinion, one of the biggest overall indicators of how effective treatment is going to be, and I've never seen this study, if you talk to James, tell him he needs to do a study on this, is I would love to know if he could somehow figure out, like, a bet, like do this study again and figure out a better average, because I've only seen like 1 or 2 studies. So what is the average that people's sympathetic spike? And what I would love to know is, can we figure out what is the time of no improving return on how long you leave the needles in? Because I know James did a study, I think it was last year, the year before, you guys, looking at like, it was something along the lines of like, does the amount of needles matter, and does how long you leave them in matter? And the answer is yes, but is there like a point of no improving return on the nervous system? Something happens if you leave the needles in as that nervous system goes through the sympathetic spike, and then the sympathetics drop and the parasympathetics become dominant. There's some point where leaving the needles in longer doesn't make the treatment more effective. But I used to think that it was somewhere around 30 minutes. I'm convinced it's closer to an hour now, because when I treat people, you guys, I treat them out of my house, right? So they'll fly out, they'll read one of my articles, they'll call me, and then if I think I can help them, they'll fly out to see me in Nebraska. And I don't charge them anything when I see people doing this. So like, I don't have any time restrictions on me. I'm not worried about anything like that. So I really try to play around with this and see like, can I figure out like, is it an hour? Is it over an hour? Is it more closer to the 45 minutes? But whatever the time, whatever the actual time is, the overall outcome seems to be that if you leave the needles in the body as the nervous system goes through that sympathetic spike and then goes into parasympathetic dominance, it keeps some type of sticking power to the nervous system, where it allows this person's nervous system to stay more shifted that direction. So some of the things that I see that really makes me think about like, what actually is needling doing to you guys. So the results that I see with needling, and I see these things all the time, you guys, I need to like take a step back and be like, am I just like fucking crazy and just making this stuff up, or is this actually happening, right? So I had a guy not that long ago, his name's Art. He was like a 70-year-old guy. His wife got a hold of me and she said, man, I don't know if this is weird, but I read your article on post-shingles neuropathy. My husband got shingles in his left butt cheek like 2 years ago, and he's crippled now. So I always try to like figure out, do I think I can help these people? So I asked them like, any brand new medications, like anything weird? Have you guys tried to get this? They're very wealthy people. They'd gone to all the correct doctors, tried to get all this stuff fixed. So I said, man, I'm pretty sure I can help with this. I don't know how long it's going to take. Why don't you guys come out if you want to, and we'll see what we can get done. So I was able to get, like, he showed up in a wheelchair, was not able to put any weight through his leg whatsoever, had been actively trying to get this treated for like 2 years. In 3 days, I had him 85% better. They flew out one more time, treated him again. That was like 5 years ago. He's never had a problem with that since. So I think about stuff like that, and it's like, how can needling fix something that typical medicine can't fix, and that it seems to be relatively permanent? And I keep going back to it. It has to be that this guy Art his body. He was little bit older. His body had been through lots of life and all this other stuff. That shingles was just enough to push his sympathetic autonomic nervous system over its threshold to be able to like return to self-regulation, and it just went into enough of a state of energy deficiency where it was just trying to do too much stuff, where it just didn't have the resources to do anything as well as it could. And if you can go in there with the needling and really focus on regulating the autonomic nervous system, depressing the sympathetics, elevating parasympathetics. So in my opinion with needles, you guys, the two ways that we can shift it towards parasympathetic dominance the easiest is, number one, every piece of pathologic tissue that we treat is going to have the overall effect of pushing the nervous system towards parasympathetic dominance, because if we have tight hypoxic tissues, the electrical charge is going to be all messed up. They're not going to be getting the normal nutrients, not going to have enough oxygen, all that stuff. So if you can restore blood flow and oxygen and nutrients to the mitochondria and amplify each mitochondria's ability to produce energy by 18x, once you can give the body enough energy that it needs to do all the stuff that it needs to do, it's like it seems to me like it's a reset on a computer, where it's like it restarts it, you get more energy, and then things start to function normally. So I think about removing the inhibition that's stopping the body from doing the stuff that it knows how to do anyways. I think in regular medicine, you guys, we think about like trying to force healing on stuff way too much, rather than, okay, what is stopping the body from healing itself, and how can we go and give it the best option that it has to heal itself? There's some crazy new research coming out on this stuff, you guys. So they can take mice nowadays, and I think they do it with a laser, but they give them an upper cervical, fully severed spinal cord, make them quadriplegic. One injection, this is just with an injection, you guys. They can do one injection into the cerebral spinal fluid. It forms this temporary jelly, like gelatinous bridge in between the two cut ends of the spinal cord. In 4 weeks, the mice are walking again. Right? So our spinal cord tries to heal itself. What they've found is that if these are the two cut ends, from one end, too much of the electrical chemical signals get like dispersed in the spinal fluid. If they can build this like temporary bridge, it transmits all of the electrical chemical signals to the other side, and it heals itself, right? So they can, and if you have millions of dollars now, you guys, you can basically get most things fixed as far as that would require surgery with an injection nowadays. So this is like the really, really cool stuff that they're figuring out. But as you guys probably know, like it's just some weird human condition where like humans have been, especially in the US, have been so ingrained to think that like, if I'm sick, it's like I have like a pharmaceutical drug deficiency or something like that, you know? It's like, the typical state of a human being, if you have the nutrients and vitamins and stuff that your body requires, the standard state of being is healthy. Sickness is not a standard state of human beings to be in, although it is normal in the United States. It shouldn't be normal, right? So if you have the base elements and nutrients and stuff that your body requires, the fallback state is health, right? So that's kind of, I think we've just gone so far down the wrong path of thinking about how to make people healthy in the US that it's a big problem. Hope you guys like this quick video. Check out our website, intricateartseminars.com. Also check out our school channel, our school community, CEU Central, school.com/CEU, SKOOL.com/CEU. You get free access to 25 board certified CEUs, nutrition courses, discounts on online nutrition courses, discounts on online dry needling courses, and discounts on our in-person dry needling courses.